Well, what a surprise. It's good to see you, new blood. I'll be honest, I half expected you to be full of bullet holes by the second or third day here in Malifaux. But you're doing alright. Even got yourself a job as a bouncer. And at the Honey Pot, no less. One of the premier casinos around. But I can see that's not where you plan to end your career. Here, take a seat. Let me talk to you a bit. Don't worry about your boss. Me and Jacob Lynch go way back. He won't mind you stepping away from the door for a few minutes. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, how can I get some real power here in Malifaux? And honestly, that's a good thought to have. You should always think about what to do next. Always keep moving. Otherwise you get stuck and become one of fate's puppets. To gain influence in this town, you need to get out of safety and try your hand at the more dangerous areas of Malifaux. But still, you shouldn't go out into the quarantine zones or even the Badlands without some ideas of the type of foes you might be facing. Lucky for you, I'm here to help you figure out what type of friends or enemies you might face in your rise to power.
The Guild.
Peace and order, at any price. When you first came to Malifaux, did you notice how you weren't immediately gutted and had all your gear stripped by an enterprising hoodlum? That would be the Guild in action. They keep peace and order in Malifaux, wanting to ensure that there isn't any trouble and everything runs as smoothly as possible. Of course, you can guess that isn't easy, with all the issues that come about in a world such as ours. Thus, they have numerous tools to ensure that the wilder forces of the city and beyond don't interfere with their finely tuned machine. The most famous of these tools, and the most loved by the common folk, are the Death Marshals. They specialize in hunting down Resurrectionists and their undead horrors that strike fear into regular people. I bet every little boy and girl in this city imagines growing up to become one of them, hunting down those who would abuse the dead in a search for power. The next are the Neverborn Hunters, a bit less glamorous than the Death Marshals, honestly. You see, Neverborn come in all shapes and sizes, and all those shapes and sizes want to kill you dead, making many a Neverborn hunter have a very short and violent career, which is why the guild tends to hire anyone with a pulse. Survive long enough though, and you might find yourself becoming quite wealthy, even if you end up with fewer limbs than when you started. Last and least loved are the Witch Hunters, given the mission to hunt down mages who have newly become empowered, or those magicians who are under the guild's umbrella. Now, the guild says they do this because untrained mages are not only a danger to themselves, but to other people as well. Not only that, but many of these mages become criminals attacking the people of the city. And there is some truth to that. The other truth is that the guild doesn't like anything out of their control, and that includes anyone with magical power. There have been plenty of stories of witch hunters making an innocent person disappear if that individual wasn't inclined to work for the guild. Beyond the public persona, the guild's real mission is to ensure the constant flow of soul stones through the breach and into Earth, wanting to make damn sure nothing interferes with that goal. With recent rumors that smaller breaches are appearing in the city, and other factions are dipping their hand into the soul stone trade, they've started cracking down with a vengeance on anyone they suspect of being a smuggler. If your thoughts go in that direction, which I wouldn't suggest as I am a fine and upstanding citizen, I suggest you watch yourself. The guild will be real quick to put you down. Some of the fastest shooters I have ever seen come from those under the guild's employ.
Arcanists.
I'm not saying we're better. I'm just saying the guild is so much worse. Did you feel the energy in the air when you first came in? Not harmful, but tingly until you got used to it. That's the magic that saturates this place. Much more than there is or perhaps ever was on good old Earth. Now, some individuals have the spark of magic in their blood, but on Earth, there wasn't enough magic to set that spark aflame. However, when they cross the breach, they suddenly are bursting with power. To most, it manifests as a minor magical trick that looks good at a party, but isn't really useful for much else. A few, however, transform from normal folks into powerful magicians. The problem is the guild. Any budding new mage find themselves hunted down by the witch hunters, fighting off their forces while trying to find a safe place. Many don't make it and are forced to serve or have an accident of the multiple bullet variety. A few, however, find the Miners and Steamfitters Union. On the surface, it's a simple organization created to protect workers' rights, seen as a hero for the common worker against a nasty and corrupt guild. Below that pleasant surface, it's a criminal empire that specializes in black market soulstones, its hand in every criminal pocket across the city and surrounding towns. The guild has tried to shut them down several times to try to protect the soulstone trade, but there's always a huge backlash from the workers across the city, all of them seeing the guild as simply trying to take down their only defender. When a new mage is brought into the Union, not only do they get all the soul stones they could ever need for their spells, but the training to turn them from individuals with basic understanding of spellcraft to master mages able to unleash hell on their enemies. Once they get trained, they are required to return the favor they owe the Union by performing minor crimes. It tests their loyalty and helps the Union determine who might be best suited for more intensive operations. The Union, with its large company of engineers, are also very skilled at the creation of mechanical servants, turning steam-powered devices into devastating war machines with the right amount of soul stones and mechanical know-how. If you see a golem rushing your direction with a mage in the background getting ready to unleash a fireball, you know you've probably made a mistake or two that night.
Outcasts.
The only difference between you and me, lawman, is you think that little badge on your chest makes you right. Now, not everyone is willing to be a follower, living life following the orders of some guild master, arcanist schemer. A few prefer to live on their own terms, willing to risk it all for freedom and the ability to choose their own fate. These folks come from all walks of life. Some might be escaped convicts, running from the chain gangs that force them to work day in and day out in the mines. Others may prefer to live in the wilds, preferring to risk their lives in the Badlands than have to deal with people and their issues. Others may simply wish to become a lone gun for hire, wanting to stay in the city, but not allying with any particular organization, either selling their services on their own or becoming part of a mercenary outfit, selling their gun or spell arm to the highest bidder. Truth be told, these outcasts are a bit romanticized by some. The idea of the lone wanderer, always the fantasy of anyone who dreams of striking out on their own. If you ever find yourself facing an outcast type, expect the unexpected. Each of them is a unique individual, one shaped by the life they had led. As such, their fighting styles and techniques would be wildly different from each other. Be ready for anything.
10 Thunders.
You failed the moment you even considered facing us, foolish one. You know of the Three Kingdoms, right? The powerful nation created when Japan, Vietnam, and China decided to join forces. Well, what many people don't know is the influence that nation is having in Malifaux. Actually, that's not quite right. It's not one nation, it's one organization, the 10 Thunders. You see, somewhere in the Three Kingdoms, there is a stable breach that goes from their territory to somewhere here in Malifaux. Probably not as big as the Western Breach, but sizable enough to make themselves known. And the 10 Thunders was the only organization who was skilled enough and powerful enough to grab it. Now, the 10 Thunders is a criminal organization through and through. Even in the Three Kingdoms, they are seen with disgust. Some horrible thing they did in the past bringing shame to them. Unlike other clans who would do whatever they could to erase that shame, the 10 Thunders embraced it, using that notoriety to create a criminal empire. A lot of their operations are planned out in the Little Kingdom in the city, a small home away from home where the traditions of the Three Kingdoms are kept alive, which makes it a perfect place to plan. Western ignorance of the Three Kingdoms' customs and the close-knit community make it difficult for any guild agent looking for clues on the criminals. Now I'm sure you're wondering, why hasn't there been any news of a big old war in the making? Of the guild and the 10 Thunders getting ready to clash in a big way? The truth is, the 10 Thunders don't work like that. They won't make any move until everything is good and ready, which means putting their little pieces into place. In every organization across Malifaux, you can find a 10 Thunder agent, giving up information as well as getting ready to strike if their leaders order them to. Everyone who has ever faced them fully expects that one day, they will receive a knife in the back from someone they thought was a close friend.
Resurrectionists.
It's alive. It's alive.
There's something about necromancy. Unlike a lot of other magics, necromancy seems to enter a person's mind and place an obsession within them. An urge to do whatever they can to find as much information as possible about this forbidden art. Eventually, the Resurrectionist sees everyone around them as obstacles in their way, or tools they can use. Of course, it's not true for every Resurrectionist. Some are strong enough to withstand the call, allowing themselves to use the power without falling to it. But I'll be honest, those people are few and far between. Eventually, the call gets to you, and eventually, you become a very different person. Now, the Resurrectionists don't have any real organization. They each study necromancy independently of each other, each with a particular style. Some try to summon hordes of undead from the bodies of those around them, usually from the bodies of those who had tried to stop them in the first place. Others try to create new unlife from the pieces of the dead, creating a new creature under the Resurrectionist orders. Either way, it all culminates in an undead monstrosity under that necromancer's control. Now, the very nature of Resurrectionist magic makes most folks believe that necromancy may not be a natural part of the magical webs on Earth or even Malifaux. It's different from the magic of the mages of the Guild or the Arcanists, but also different from the more primal magic of the Neverborn. It is somehow anathema to both. Not only that, but despite each Resurrectionist seeming to be independent of each other, they have a commonality. A mention of a being called a grave spirit. It's possible that this being might be the source of their magic. If so, this obsession placed in each Resurrectionist's mind might be a long-term plan by this eldritch entity to bring about its rise. Or maybe it's all a big old coincidence. Anything is possible. If you find yourself facing a Resurrectionist, expect a wave of death. They love unleashing hordes of undead, mainly because there are always plenty of dead bodies in the streets and gutters of the city to refill their supply.
Gremlins.
Well, Carl, it's like Mama always said. If it doesn't kill you, it's an excuse to try again.
Now, the Gremlins have always been a part of this realm. They were essentially savages, spending their time eating and being eaten by the wild hogs they shared the swamps with. Probably doing this since the beginning of Malifaux. It was the way of things anyway, until humans came. Now, generally, gremlins aren't particularly intelligent creatures, but they have a natural cunning. And they are very good at mimicking the behavior of humans. When they saw humans had clothes, they stole some and tried to put them on themselves. When they saw the humans domesticating animals, they, with relative success, domesticated the wild hogs they had once simply hunted for food. And when they saw the humans shooting guns, you can bet your ass the gremlins wanted to play with those toys. Beyond the clothing and the weapons, the gremlins also started organizing, creating their own miniature empires to do everything from fighting to stealing. Hell, there are even a few famous ones that have made a name for themselves. Don't make the mistake of underestimating them. If you ever face off against gremlins, you can expect death in numbers. Death in the form of gremlins more likely to shoot their compatriots than you, which would be hilarious if it wasn't for their numbers. A female gremlin can birth up to a dozen or so gremlins per litter, and it shows the number of gremlins they will set against you. Even you shooting a fair number of them, and their own guns literally blowing up in their faces, you can bet there will probably be enough to finish the job eventually. Not to mention the various swamp critters they have at their disposal, like giant hogs, giant gators, or even giant insects. Apparently everything is oversized in those swamps.
The Neverborn.
We are your nightmares made flesh. The Neverborn are a dangerous presence here in Malifaux, a presence that wants us out of what they consider their home. There are many scholars that think that long ago, Malifaux used to be something like Earth, but something happened. Something dark that turned this world into the hellish place we know now. Despite that, the Neverborn ain't inclined to share. Now, Neverborn come in all shapes and sizes. Some are small creatures that bite at your heels like annoying rats. Others are beasts able to rip you apart limb from limb with ease. A few are more insidious, able to look and talk like regular folks until they get close and strike. Whatever their forms, they all want you very, very dead. The scariest thing about the Neverborn is their magic. It is much more primal and powerful than the magic used by the Guild and Arcanists, requiring blood and sacrifice, but able to do powerful and devastating things, like twist fate itself. Many foolish humans have tried to tap into this power, doing craven acts to gain mastery of it. Truth is, all they're doing is feeding the Neverborn, giving those creatures the juice they need to kill us off one day. Keep two things in mind when facing the Neverborn. They hit damn hard and they are fast. Always keep your eye on them, or they'll be on you faster than you can blink. Get a few licks in though, and you might survive. Well, I hope that helps you survive a bit longer in Malifaux, my friend. Maybe we'll see each other again. Before I go though, let me give you a smaller piece of advice. If you suddenly hear a voice telling you to head down to the honeypot basement, ignore it. Trust me when I say it won't end well. See you later. Hey guys, this is Arvandus, and I hope you enjoyed this video about the factions in Malifaux. If you like it, please like, subscribe, and comment. And if you really like it, please consider giving to my Patreon. With the extra money, it gives me the time I need to work on these stories that I love. Anyway, thanks for listening, and see you next time.